Hi. Okay, well, it's Tuesday, and on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I've been coming over here to hang out with you for a few minutes during the lunch hour. Here in Anchorage, it's lunchtime, closer to dinner time on the East Coast. So if you're tuning in live or you're watching this at another time, I'm glad you're able to spend a few minutes together with me to talk about anxiety, to talk about what is clinically described as change anxiety and transition anxiety. And I have always found it part of my authentic life to share with you things that I go through because, though it's personal, I have been shown a long time ago and many times since that the personal is universal. And so, what one person is going through, experiencing, feeling, thinking, is oftentimes true for at least one other person. Though these days, I'm going to take a jump and say that this experience of anxiety and concern is something that many of us are dealing with, no matter how stable we believe ourselves to be, and sometimes no matter our spiritual practices or mindfulness practices that we lean into now, day and night, and throughout the day to steady ourselves during these times of unprecedented, imposed upon change, where the order of the day is intended chaos. We've got a president who does not seemingly have the best interest of all Americans at hand in his decision-making process, though for many, there are a lot of people very much in alignment with what he is doing, and that's always a very fascinating experience. But today, I want to talk about the anxiety that change brings. It's a very normal and natural part of change, whether you're initiating it or it's being imposed upon us, also known as transition change. When perhaps a kid graduates from high school and goes on to college, as there is excitement, there's also perhaps this transition anxiety because you're stepping into something new and there's a lot of unknowns. And of course, the mind and the brain, they don't like that. We tend to be creatures of habit. And so when things threaten our knowing, we can experience stress, anxiety, sometimes even panic attacks based on past experiences. And it's an important thing to talk about today. You know, you can also experience transition or change anxiety when you're having a profound change in how you know yourself to be in the world. Something that has caught me a little bit by surprise today, but nonetheless, I did have my own experience with anxiety, pretty severe, this morning. Perhaps when people retire, they also experience this type of transition or change anxiety. So I thought it would be helpful to just come together for a few minutes. I did a little research in addition to what I already know about this topic, because like I say, this morning I had an experience where before I could even catch it, I went into panic mode. And thank goodness I have some tools that I pulled on and someone who was available to just witness my emotional meltdown until I could move through it, because it was a pretty severe experience. And all I could do was be present for it and to love myself through it and to seek the help I needed and to hear what the other person's perspective was, because even though I knew that I was in fear and that my mind was anticipating the worst, and as a result, I was feeling that, I still had to go through it to get on the other side of it. And I did, and here I am right now to talk to you about this experience of anxiety. So I found this wonderful article from Calm, the app that is offering free trials. If you haven't had the chance to find an app that can calm you, CALM is one that you might want to consider. So with everything that is going on right now and all the information that we're experiencing and all the new information that's coming out about these tariffs and the stock market, and people that I know that have today lost everything, people that worked hard and continue to work hard their whole lives and participated in the opportunity that we were, encouraged to consider to help invest and grow our financial wealth for retirement, right? There's just a lot of opportunity for panic right now. And having had my own panic attack this morning, I can tell you that it is a very debilitating emotion and frequency to stay in. And so I wanted to just acknowledge and honor that if you're having anxiety, if you have had some type of panic attack, you're not alone. It's understandable. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence to understand why someone is having these feelings. And I want to help us today process it, move through it, allow the feelings to move through us so we can get on the other side of it and soothe our nervous system and continue to take really good care of ourselves. So some of the triggers of transition anxiety, right? So this is when we're pushed out of our comfort zone, when we are pushed into unfamiliar territory, and we are in unfamiliar territory right now. Though I did just see something really beautiful posted on Instagram from a woman who was talking about the importance of leaning into our ancestors and to learn how our ancestors prepared for things like the Depression, and to use this time in a way that helps us prepare out of power and not panic, right? So it's just interesting to read something through the lens of, oh yeah, my parents were children during this time, new babies, but their parents were adults going through the Depression, and they survived it. And so I believe with all my heart that we can survive this. And one of the ways we can survive this is by connecting with each other, building community, having some time on social media, and all the things that we've talked about. If you're isolating, I want to encourage you to have the guts today, the courage to just text one person that you feel the safest with and let them know that you're having a really tough time. And be willing to be vulnerable to someone that you feel would respond well to that vulnerability, because I just know that for me, if I isolate, that's a downhill spiral that will take me a very long time to get out of. And I don't want to have that experience. But I did have an experience today where I got some feedback about something that I had communicated, and my communication did not land well. And it immediately triggered me super fast, like that. I was there. And because I was like that there, I couldn't pull myself out. I was already in it. I was already spinning. So I had to take the steps I had to take to calm myself so that I could eventually work my way out of it. But I was thinking about how relative it is to what we're going through right now when the mind can't anticipate what's happening. This is why change is so hard. This is why we often don't change, because the mind doesn't like not knowing. And with any sort of change, even initiated change by yourself, there's always going to be an element of not knowing. That's just part of change. That's why I've dedicated the last 7 years of my life talking about change, teaching about change, so we can heal our relationship to change, so we can be in a more empowered position with change. I mean, I have a lot of training around anxiety, change anxiety, transition anxiety, but that didn't stop me from having a panic attack today, and that's always very humbling. But I think to the degree that we're willing to talk about this and normalize it, the better it is. So we are in experience right now where there's a tremendous amount of change being imposed upon us. We are in an experience right now where the mind, understandably, is in freak out mode because it has no sense of what is going to happen, because change is being imposed upon us hour by hour, day by day. And we read these headlines and these stories about how the change that's being imposed upon us and others, and by others I mean countries, is causing countries to respond in a way that can produce, understandably so, a lot of nervousness, a lot of anxiety, to the full degree, panic. So though change and transition and everything that's happening is the formula for change anxiety, transition anxiety, the anxiety that comes with not knowing, what we can do different today is bring respect to it by talking about it, and to remind ourselves of the tools that we have, that we can use and must use as a means of self-care and self-love, as a means for caring and loving others, to help ourselves navigate these times of unprecedented uncertainty and change. So transition anxiety happens when change pushes us out of our comfort zones and into unfamiliar territory. It's a natural response to the uncertainty that we're in. It's a natural response to the challenge that we're feeling. How do I deal with this? How's everybody dealing with this? What are we doing? There's a lot of questions because the mind is very uncomfortable in a state of uncertainty. And if you can understand that and bring respect to your experience, because you understand that that's a natural response and reaction from your mind, it's very helpful. Extremely, extremely helpful. So things like job loss, or starting a new job, or moving, relationship changes, health changes, as I said earlier, educational transitions. And I know for me, one of the transitions I'm going through is a complete remodeling of who I am and how I've known myself to be in the world. Now, the majority of the time, I'm in a really excited place about that. But today, I had an experience that really kind of rocked my world, because I felt like my mind anticipated that this last piece of how I know myself to be in the world that has remained in my life could go away. And then what? And so identity loss, identity transitions, and feeling like you're in between versions of yourself is a very anxious experience. So just know, if you're going through any of these, you're not alone. And all the things that you could be going through personally, let alone adding on to it what's happening in our country right now, has all the ingredients for some significant anxiety. And so my hope today is, by sharing my experience with you and talking a little bit about some of this information I just found, and perhaps even your own comments below, we can take some breaths together. In fact, this is a wonderful time right now. Just put your hand on your heart with me, or better, put your hand on your belly. And just take some breaths. When you take slow breaths, slow deep breaths, you tell your amygdala there's no charging elephant. Starts to shut the doors on cortisol and adrenaline and all of these other hormones that are running 24/7 these days. And that's not the way our nervous system was set up. It was set up to have these hormones showing up when we needed them, right? So when you're starting to feel anxious, if you can remember to breathe, it's unbelievably helpful and fairly instant in its assistance. Okay? So Again, we're stepping into unknown territory. The known that we have built our lives on is being threatened right now. It's being pulled out from underneath us, and it's a real thing. Okay? And so this uncertainty leads to anxiety because, as I said, the mind needs to know. And when it can't know, it takes that as a sign to be afraid, to be anxious, to panic, right? So to the degree that you can understand why it's happening is very, very helpful. To really understand, okay, my mind likes consistency. My mind thrives on knowing. And when it doesn't know, it moves into a panic. What can I do to soothe myself during this time where my mind is struggling? The heart may have a different experience, but today I just want to talk about the mind. And that's why I always say you put your hand on your own heart, as I did this morning when I was freaking out and I was in full-blown panic. Even though my heart knew that it was an anticipated panic of something ending, and it really wasn't ending actually right now, it didn't matter. It felt totally real. So all I could do in that moment was put my hand on my heart and try to comfort myself. Not to convince myself that it wasn't happening, but rather just to comfort myself that it felt like it was. I'll deal with that later. But in the moment of your anxiety, best to just bring acknowledgement that you feel anxious. You know, the worst thing you can do sometimes, and the worst thing people do to us sometimes, and we to them, because we're just trying to help, is we try to dismiss what we're feeling because we rationalize it in our minds as something that, you know, you should know better, or that's not actually happening. Why are you feeling that way? In the new design model, we just really accept how we feel. In the new design model, we stop. Just like when a child is having a moment, we stop. We pick them up. We comfort them. We calm them. And this is a wonderful time as adults to really learn how to calm your nervous system. You know, hand on your heart, talking to yourself, telling yourself you're here for yourself and you understand. You know, tapping is an amazing tool. There's no shortage of information online about tapping the meridian points. And I tell you what, it is a powerful, powerful, powerful modality that I also use today. I was just throwing everything at it to calm myself down. So fear of the unknown is something that makes us feel very vulnerable, right? We feel like this is happening to us, and in a way it is, right? That's why I've been spending a lot of time talking about how to live life from the inside out, where, okay, change is being imposed upon us and this is happening to us. However, what is it that we can do from the inside out that gives us greater dominion over how we're going to experience what it is that we are feeling? This is a powerful shift. We're going from the old design model where things are happening from the outside to us to a new design model where we are becoming more familiar with our inner world, our inner power, our inner presence to help us respond and not react. So feelings of vulnerability are very heightened during this time. There's a sense of urgency and panic. Also, adjusting to new circumstances can be very overwhelming, which a lot of us are feeling right now. You know, transitions often require us to adapt to new routines, new roles, new environments. The mind does not like anything new. It likes what it knows. That old phrase, we're creatures of habit, right? That's why we say, do a new habit for 21 days, because it takes time to reprogram. Okay, so the adjustments that we are being asked to go through on a daily basis right now is stressful in and of itself, especially, as they say here, if the changes are rapid or unexpected. So that is why, no matter what your thoughts are about what's happening, whether you're for it and want more of it, you're okay with it, it doesn't bother you, it's freaking you out, whatever, wherever you are on the spectrum, this is just life stuff. Change and transition is part of life. And the more we strengthen our capacity to be prepared for it, the better we're going to have, the better experience we're going to have, or the more tools we're going to have. Like today, my experience didn't stop that from happening, but the tools that I have consciously put into my change toolbox helped me. And I was grateful for that. I still feel uncomfortable, but not as severe as I was an hour ago. I still have some residual anxiety, but I feel like I am overseeing it versus it's overwhelming me. The other thing that's going on is when we're going through times of massive change and transition, it can challenge our sense of who we know ourselves to be in the world, right? So I have a friend who's in a position where they've lost much of their savings because of how they invested it and the changes that are happening there. So they're dealing with not only a sense of anger, but a loss of a dream of how they saw this next year was going to begin to unfold for them. So there's constant adjustment. That's why it's really important to pull the heart into this experience, because the heart brings a lot of information and compassion to the challenges that the mind is dealing with in a very different way. A lot of us are experiencing a challenge with values, and we are reassessing our values, and we have a lot of contrasts now, a lot of information, what it's like to be in a society and in a group of people, in a family where our values have changed. That's why open, honest conversations is a real blessing and a gift right now. Even if you're changing work, right? I'm in a situation right now where my work life spontaneously ended. Okay? Now, though, on a deep level, I understand why. My mind is still freaking out about it. And it can only point to the past to show me what happened in the past when these experiences happened back then. And it can only look ahead with panic and fear about what will happen if I don't, fill in the blank. And new opportunities can provoke imposter syndrome. I thought this was really interesting. Whether it's excelling in a new job, adapting to a new city, or navigating the dynamics of a new relationship, there's often worry about whether we'll be able to handle the new challenges effectively. And that's why last week, a couple of videos ago, I asked the question, do you feel like you've got what it takes to navigate the rapids that we're in? Because we're just getting started. And if you are saying that you don't, see that as a gift that you've given yourself. This level of honesty, because it's not like just because you don't feel prepared, you're going to be left behind, but rather because you're able to acknowledge, I don't know that I'm fully prepared. You can then get the help you need to be better prepared, to talk to other people who maybe feel more prepared than you and see what it is that they're doing that maybe you might benefit doing as well. So this self-reflection and this opportunity for self-correction is really, really helpful right now. So some of the things that we can do to help any sort of anxiety that we feel like we're experiencing, either short-term, mid-term, or long-term, and again, to the degree that you're in the news and to the degree that you're in the headlines, is a good gauge to see where your anxiety is. If you are the kind of person that can take a lot of information in and it truly doesn't affect you, then that's really good to know. But I'm not like that. I'm not like that at all. And I'm sure a couple of things I saw this morning were a precursor to me entering into a panic experience, because it certainly didn't help. So acknowledging your feelings is super important. Mindfulness techniques, like I said, slow breathing. Post little notes around the house. Remember to breathe. It sounds silly, but a lot of us are having a shortness of breath because we breathe from here right to the upper chest. And it's a very short cycle. But it's really when we bring the breath all the way down and slow it down that we shut the doors on those hormones that are racing through our system unnecessarily. in a response to the stress that we're in. When we take slow, deep breaths, we immediately calm the nervous system. We immediately begin to oxygenate the blood. It's to me, it's part of the divine creation that we have such incredible power in the breath. It's one of the only functions that we really have any dominion over. And so I want to encourage you to step into new ways of dealing with the new things that we're dealing with. You don't want to meditate. Your mind tells you you can't meditate. I've tried to meditate. It doesn't work. Here's the good news. Meditation is not about something working. There's nothing here to work. There's no goal. There's no outcome. There's no end game. Mindfulness and meditation is literally practicing sitting with the discomfort of being unstimulated. Sitting still is really hard these days because we are addicted to our phones, and I don't say that from a place of shaming or blaming. I too am working all the time at putting the phone down. But what happens is we get into this loop and overstimulation becomes the norm. And if you don't have ways to interrupt that, if you don't take the wheel and start driving the car in the direction you want, you'll end up off the cliff pretty quickly. So maybe walking in nature without your headphones is a good way to take in the moment-to-moment sights and sounds that are unfolding around you. But mostly, if you can practice sitting in the discomfort and become more comfortable with the discomfort, that's the real skill. Not to dismiss it, try to make it go away. No. Practice being comfortable in the discomfort of sitting still. That is the skill of the day. So these things can help ground us, okay? Maintaining routines when you can. If what's happening in your life, whether because of personal experiences or outer experience or a combination of both, which was my experience today, one of the things that I was like, okay, so what do I know I need to do? I need to go on Facebook at noon. I said I was going to do that, and I'm going to get myself together and maintain that commitment. Keep the stability going where you can. Going to the gym, exercising, eating well, whatever it is. Do your best to stay committed to those habits that keep you centered and stable. Reading at night instead of watching television. Maybe finding a guided meditation where someone's talking and you're just having the experience of being guided into a place of quiet and internal stillness. Whatever you need, okay? But have a commitment to those daily routines that help stabilize you in an unstable time. Gain perspective by seeking support. I did that today. I did not have perspective. I was in a panic attack. I was in fear. I was future tripping about the end of something, even though right now it's not ending. It could end. But I needed someone to help me, not just hold space while I went through it, but somebody to calm me with words of comfort. And then when I was ready, offer some perspective that I was then able to take in. They knew better than to try to talk that way while I was in the midst of it. And so if you're called when someone is having a panic attack, the best gift you can give them, or if someone's just anxious, the best gift we can give each other is just listen. The mind thinks you have to say things and fix things. Let's practice holding a space and just being a safe place for someone to lose their shit, because it will pass. And it's a good skill to have and to tell your family and friends, let's practice this with each other. Support groups if you need it. Counseling if you need it. Journaling if that's your thing. For me, sometimes writing isn't helpful because I'm re-experiencing what it is that I'm just now trying to get a handle on. Oh, thank you everyone for watching. Blaze is saying this is helpful. Needed those deep breathing moments too. Yes. And I'd love to hear anything you're doing that's helping you. Thank you, Blaze, for sharing that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. But for some people, journaling can help clarify your thoughts. It can help you have a dump where you just get everything out. I actually tend to record myself because my thoughts are moving at such a fast pace these days. I can't keep up with it. Writing, if I type, I can, But I have found that for me, getting my phone and just talking it out or just walking around the house and verbally processing it is very, very helpful. Find the thing that works for you. Find the thing that works for you, because it's not going to be what works for me. It's going to be what specifically helps you. Again, try to focus on what you have dominion over, whether it's your habits, okay, or your attitude, okay. I feel anxious and I'm okay with that because I know it's going to pass and I'm here for myself and I have a lot of people that care about me. Whatever it is that you can do that helps you have some sense of control, not by force, but by understanding. This is why my mind is freaking out. How's my heart feeling about this? There's nothing more self-loving than sitting with yourself during a complete and total emotional meltdown. I don't know how else to do it except to be fully present for myself, wrap my arms around myself, and just ride it out. Because something is happening and it's sacred. It's coming out. It's coming out. It's not going in. It's coming out. And I want to be available for all the snake skin shedding that this time is offering us. What else here? Practice self-care. Taking care of your physical, emotional, and mental well-being is crucial during times of change. These may be things you never had to think of before. You may be kind of blown away that you of all people are having these issues. I certainly had that experience today, but I've been through enough of this to know that it's real and it's happening. And I want to be here for myself. I want to be here for myself. So self-care is super helpful. Understand your progress by setting small, achievable goals. So in closing, things that can help us these days, as I've said in this video, self-compassion, self-care, asking yourself, what do I need to help myself with these feelings of anxiety, nervousness, fear, panic? How can I soothe my mind that needs to know? And we're in a time of uncertainty, so I better figure this out because there's going to be a lot more uncertainty than there is certainty. But just because the outer world is uncertainty, and even though the outer world is intentionally causing chaos, confusion, and uncertainty for specific outcomes, it doesn't mean that within yourself you can't have dominion. It doesn't mean that just because there's confusion that you have to be confused. That's something I learned in my meditation experience back in 2017 when I meditated for an hour every day for 100 days. Yeah, as painful as it sounds. But what did it teach me? There may be confusion, but I am not confused. So be mindful of what happens when you put yourself into the headlines, into the news, when you're hanging out with people that can't stop talking about it. And decide for yourself, is that really healthy and helpful for you? Maybe you need it in smaller doses. Maybe you need to hang out with people that are speaking in the affirmative. That's why the new design for living is something I'm very much empowered and impassioned by. Because I got nothing to go back to. It's over. I've caused much of this new experience for myself. However, I too am experiencing the space in between, something ending and something coming into full form. I literally said to my spirit today while I had tears rolling down my cheeks, I wish you could be here in person, sitting on this couch with me, telling me what to do. Now, I've developed a life where I know how to access that knowing within myself. But in that moment, I yearned for the physicality of the one that does know. So, building a relationship with your inner self, amplifying your spiritual practices, leaning more deeply into your faith, practicing developing a relationship with the invisible presence that breathes you at night, reading some books, watching some helpful videos, whatever it is, especially if it's new, give yourself permission to embrace it. Give it a try and see what happens. But I just wanted to come here today to tell you that if you're feeling anxious, you're not alone. If you're having some panic attacks about all the uncertainty and the change that's going on, you're not alone. If you're going through personal change that's kind of rocking your world, you're not alone. We are in a collapse. And this is a time when we're being forced to turn within to a world that has been waiting for our attention for a very, very long time. You know, people who have a spiritual life, a religious life, a life based on spiritual practices, a life of ritual. There is a full moon meditation coming up at the Oriental Healing Arts, hosted by the Adams Center. They're bringing it into the community. I think it's $18 a person, which, let me tell you, is more money than we spend on coffee every week. And your mind's going to say, why should I pay that much money? What do you anticipate the resistance? But what a gift to give yourself. $18 for self-care, for self-support, for being in the healing vibrational frequency of those crystal bowls, to be in a circle with other people and to have the amplification of healing through sound and by sound. It's the best $18 you could spend every month for yourself. We spend that much going to a movie. So in the new design model, we reconsider how we're investing in ourselves. And I really want to encourage you to give it a shot. Try it. Try it. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't, but you can't know until you go. And during these times of unprecedented change and uncertainty, being willing to try new things is critical. In the new design for living, we're all about that. We know the old toolbox isn't going to work anymore. I talked about this on my show yesterday. The new change toolbox has new things in it because we need new things to help us with what's new. So I hope some of this has been helpful for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm here on Facebook. Because I don't have a job now, I'm redesigning how I'm showing up in the world, and I'm looking to make my way onto YouTube and try to be a presence there because I have a lot of information that I feel is helpful right now, not just to myself, but to hopefully you as well. We can do this. We can do this. And we are doing it together. So thanks so much for tuning in. Take super good care of yourself. If you'd like to share this video with someone, please do. If you'd like to learn more about my work in the world, you can go to CamilleConte.com. And if you're feeling inspired to support my work in the world, you can find all of that information at my website as well, CamilleConte.com. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Take care.